The Indiana Fever must get rid of Kelsey Mitchell. I said it. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever have to move on from Kelsey Mitchell.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to address something deeply uncomfortable today. So prepare yourselves because the celebration period in Indianapolis has officially expired. The adorable social media snapshots, the stylish pregame tunnel fits, the viral clips of everyone grinning as they surf the massive surge sparked by the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. It's all about to collide with the harsh, ruthless, unsentimental truth of the professional sports industry. The Indiana Fever are potentially standing on the edge of a monetary disaster, and this entire situation centers on one athlete, one agreement, and one agonizing choice that management must confront immediately: Kelsey Mitchell. Let me be direct and unapologetically blunt. I do not care who feels offended. If Kelsey Mitchell is unwilling to accept a significant and meaningful salary reduction, the Fever need to thank her, escort her out, and move forward without her. Her chapter in Indiana has to close if this organization genuinely intends to construct a long-term powerhouse around what many believe is the most transformative point guard the sport has ever witnessed. I understand that this stance will frustrate people, especially the devoted longtime Fever supporters who cherish Kelsey Mitchell. She remained committed through the rebuilding seasons, endured the painful stretches of losing over 25 games, carried the scoring load, kept her head down, and consistently put in the work, proving herself as one of the league's most reliable shot creators. No one, absolutely no one, is doubting her skill, her passion, or her capacity to consistently score the basketball. Kelsey Mitchell, when viewed in isolation, is unquestionably worthy of a full supermax deal in the Women's National Basketball Association. However, this league does not operate in isolation. It functions under a strict salary cap structure where every financial commitment directly impacts another. Each dollar allocated to one athlete is a dollar that cannot be spent elsewhere, and that fiscal constraint is exactly what has the Indiana Fever executive team staring at a long-term crisis that could seal their title hopes before Caitlin Clark even enters her peak years. The figures tied to the proposed collective bargaining framework make the dilemma crystal clear. Ownership has established a firm cap of $5.65 million, and that total represents the entire budget. No additional space, no exceptions, no second servings. Should Mitchell receive the supermax compensation she believes she has earned, her earnings would jump to approximately 1/5 of that total limit. The issue is that she will not be the only cornerstone seeking elite compensation. Aaliyah Boston, the former top overall selection, reigning Rookie of the Year, dominant interior presence, and essential pick-and-roll counterpart to Clark, will soon qualify for her own maximum extension. Shortly after that, Caitlin Clark, the league's primary attraction and economic engine, will be positioned to demand what could become the richest supermax agreement ever awarded in women's basketball history. Locking in Mitchell at the highest allowable number now effectively means committing to a trio that would swallow more than 60% of the organization's total cap allocation, leaving minimal flexibility for depth, role players, and a sustainable bench unit. That is the financial crossroads being outlined, and it is a sobering projection every Fever supporter needs to seriously consider.
And likely supermax salary. As Constable noted, if Mitchell were to receive the new max, her contract combined with Clark's and Boston's will leave Indiana with well less than the new average player salary to spend to fill out the roster under the $5.65 million.
Did you truly process those numbers? Do you understand the roster damage a maximum deal for Kelsey Mitchell would cause? If Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston all secure top-tier salaries, the franchise would be scraping together loose change to occupy the final 9 roster positions, forcing management to rely on fringe developmental prospects, overlooked newcomers, and bargain veterans simply to complete the bench. We have watched this blueprint unravel before. Consider the NBA's Phoenix Suns, who concentrated their payroll into Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, sacrificed depth and versatility, and were ultimately exposed when the post-season spotlight revealed that star power without support collapses under pressure. Basketball demands balance. Championships are not secured with 3 headline names surrounded by replacement-level contributors. And this is where the emotional cost enters the picture, because awarding Mitchell that massive contract doesn't just tighten finances, it reshapes the locker room entirely. Committing that level of money likely means parting ways with Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham, dismantling the very chemistry that energized last season's run and weakening the internal structure that held everything together. Both Hull and Cunningham are entering free agency, and neither will accept a bare minimum agreement. Hull has demonstrated elite perimeter defense while knocking down over 40% from beyond the arc, and Cunningham has embraced the role of on-court protector, absorbing technical fouls and physical punishment to shield Clark from intimidation. The video's host delivers a firm, uncompromising warning to head coach Stephanie White and the Fever leadership about this precise crossroads, emphasizing that the decision ahead is not merely financial. It will define the identity and competitive future of the entire organization.
You better do the right thing. If you guys give Kelsey Mitchell a full-on max contract, it is a bad thing. That means we won't be keeping Lexi Hull. We won't be able to keep Sophie Cunningham. They're not going to.
This is not just a minor mistake. It is front office negligence at the highest level. Let me spell this out for anyone convinced that pure scoring outweighs everything else on a basketball court. The Indiana Fever already possess the most dynamic offensive catalyst in the world in Caitlin Clark. There is no justification for crippling your payroll simply to retain a high-usage shooting guard when your system is already powered by a generational playmaker. Clark does not require another backcourt partner who dominates the ball deep into the shot clock to produce results. She thrives alongside disciplined, defensive-minded wings like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham who absorb the toughest perimeter matchups, conserve her stamina, and stretch the floor with lethal catch-and-shoot precision. She benefits from teammates who punish double teams instantly and from fearless enforcers willing to embrace the physical battles that inevitably come her way. If management allows Hull and Cunningham to depart merely to satisfy Kelsey Mitchell's contract demands, they are effectively stripping protection away from their franchise centerpiece, constructing a luxury estate while leaving every entry point exposed. So what is the blueprint? How do legitimate dynasties navigate this salary squeeze without self-destructing? The Fever are hardly the first organization to confront cap pressure, and the model is sitting in plain sight with the Las Vegas Aces under Becky Hammon, who managed to maintain 4 all-star talents by embracing shared sacrifice and financial compromise for the greater mission. The lesson is simple yet demanding. Sustained dominance requires stars who are willing to prioritize banners over bank accounts, and that is the reality Kelsey Mitchell must seriously consider if the goal is building a championship legacy rather than securing a solitary payday.
Take pay cuts, okay? A'ja Wilson took less than what she could have gotten, okay? She took less. Wilson wasn't the highest paid player in the league or even on her team last year. That was Jewel Lloyd.
A'ja Wilson, the league's reigning MVP and widely recognized as the best player on the planet right now, willingly walked away from roughly 20% of her maximum earnings during negotiations, and she did it with full awareness of what she was giving up because her priority was championships, not just compensation. She approached the Las Vegas decision-makers and essentially told them to allocate that money toward keeping Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and Kelsey Plum so they could sustain a powerhouse together, understanding that shared sacrifice fuels sustained dominance. The same philosophy defined Tom Brady's tenure with the New England Patriots, where he repeatedly accepted contracts below his true market worth so Bill Belichick could invest in elite protection up front and a formidable defense, proving that iconic winners often subordinate personal financial leverage for collective glory. That is the standard set by champions. Now comes the uncomfortable inquiry. Is Kelsey Mitchell prepared to mirror A'ja Wilson's mindset or adopt the Brady blueprint? Would she sit across from Stephanie White and acknowledge that while she qualifies for a max offer, perhaps even from markets like Chicago or Toronto, she is willing to trim 20% to ensure Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham remain alongside Caitlin Clark in pursuit of a title? Realistically, human nature suggests the answer may lean toward no, and it is difficult to fault her for that perspective. Mitchell is older than Clark and Aaliyah Boston and is approaching the latter stages of her athletic peak, making this potentially her final opportunity to secure a transformative, generational contract. After enduring the rebuilding years in Indiana, she likely feels entitled to capitalize fully on her value, viewing this moment as the time to secure her financial future rather than postpone it for a gamble on shared sacrifice. Beyond the financial implications, there is an undeniable pride factor woven into this situation, because asking a seasoned veteran who once carried the franchise to accept reduced pay and a diminished spotlight behind a 22-year-old phenom requires rare humility that few elite competitors naturally embrace. If Kelsey Mitchell insists on a full maximum agreement and refuses compromise, the Indiana Fever leadership cannot afford to make decisions rooted in emotion or nostalgia. Sentiment and past loyalty must be set aside in favor of calculated, unsentimental strategy. Their singular responsibility is crystal clear: extend and optimize Caitlin Clark's championship timeline. Handing Mitchell a max contract would effectively trap that window shut, committing Clark to seasons flanked by bargain roll reserves lacking the defensive instincts or reliability required in high-stakes moments. There is a narrow workaround available, a temporary solution in the form of the core designation, allowing the Fever to compensate Mitchell at the maximum for the 2026 campaign, take one aggressive swing at a title with the current core intact, and then part ways in 2027 once Aaliyah Boston's extension activates. But even that approach compresses flexibility and restricts competitive offers to Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham in the present. The unforgiving truth about constructing dynasties is that difficult separations are inevitable. Sustained winners prioritize timing over attachment, moving on from respected veterans before decline sets in. History has repeatedly shown that iconic executives and coaches are willing to endure backlash and heartbreak to preserve long-term dominance, because in professional sports, hard logic, not comfort, builds banners. The Indiana Fever now stand directly at that defining fork in the road. Kelsey Mitchell has been exceptional for this franchise, a premier scorer who has earned respect across the league and absolutely merits maximum level compensation based on her talent and production, yet that payday simply cannot come from Indianapolis without unraveling the roster's entire framework. From a cap perspective, from a structural standpoint, and from a long-term competitive lens, it does not align with sustaining a balanced contender. Stephanie White, Kelly Krauskopf, and the full Fever leadership group are under a spotlight because they have been entrusted with a generational cornerstone in Caitlin Clark, a player capable of reshaping the league's trajectory, and mishandling this moment would be organizational negligence. Difficult conversations with respected veterans are part of championship stewardship. If Mitchell seeks her full market value in places like Chicago or a rising Toronto expansion scenario where she can command high usage and top billing, that path may serve her ambitions, but Indiana's priority must be preserving financial flexibility, retaining elite perimeter stoppers, keeping physical tone setters, and constructing a defensive and cultural stronghold around number 22. Loyalty to past eras cannot outweigh commitment to the future. The objective is sustained dominance, not sentimental attachment, and if a maximum contract for Mitchell compromises that blueprint, then decisive action is required. The franchise must choose clarity over comfort, make the hard decision without hesitation, and fully commit to ushering in the Caitlin Clark era with the right foundation in place.